Tomorrow will mark 20 years since the terror attacks on September the 11th in 2001. 2,996 people died as a result of those. 67 were listed as British victims. One of those was Hasmukh Parmar. He was a UK citizen but moved to New York after securing a job there. Our reporter Baldeep Chahal spoke to one of his sons, Rishi, who was 16 at the time, about what happened that day.
Take me back to the day then. You know, what can you remember of the day, and did you know your father was in the building?
My father used to take me and my brother, who was 2 years younger than me at the time, to high school, because he would drop us off and then hop on the train to New York. Train station wasn't too far from the high school. So, I just remember that day, any day getting ready. It was actually, school had just started early September, so we had just probably gotten back to school about a week or two before. My dad was very punctual. He always wanted to be the first one in, kind of like the last guy out. He was a very hard worker in that sense. So I definitely remember vividly that day that he was speeding very fast that day to catch a train. If I recall, he even had a meeting that day. So, I do remember him dropping us off, and, I do remember watching the car kind of drive off into the distance. To this day, I always say I wish there was kind of like an extra red light or maybe some traffic buildup or anything to just kind of slow him down just a little bit. Then maybe he may have missed his train or missed his connecting train, or, there were many stories like that we had heard. Many people had missed their train, overslept, etc. But, unfortunately, that didn't occur. And, he made that train to get to work on time like he always did. An hour or two after he dropped us off, I want to say there was an announcement on the PA system in each classroom that a plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. First, I didn't think too much because my father had recently taken his job at the time in the World Trade Center. I think he was fairly new, maybe 6 months to a year, I'm not sure. But then I was like, I think he might be in there. So they said, if you're affected by this or may be affected, meet in the auditorium. So I went there. I met my brother there. My mother, then came and picked us up. We just headed home. And to this day, I still remember it was just such an eerie feeling, like just driving. Like she actually stopped to get some gas in the car. I felt like everything was kind of moving like slow. It was just really, really weird. And then we got home and turned on the television, and they kept re-showing the planes crashing into the towers over and over. And, we were kind of just sitting there and all, and didn't really know what to think of it. And, from what I remember, then slowly friends and neighbors started coming in, giving support, trying to see where they could help out. That was it, really. From there on, it just kind of went from, more and more people coming each day. Family members. We have a lot of family from England, as I had said, came the next 2 or 3 days. They were all here trying to help, see where they could make phone calls, kind of searching the internet for any databases that people found. And, back then, obviously the technology was not there in terms of the power of search engines that we have now. And it was mainly relying on phone back then, from what I remember. Even email wasn't even that big.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 16 years old.
And when did you find out what happened to him? Was there hope that, he'd somehow survived the whole time?
Yeah, it's kind of like, obviously we had hope, and, like I said, we had family and friends, in and out of the house, for, a couple of weeks. And then I guess just after a while, you just kind of had to accept that, he wasn't coming back. It was just one of those things.
And how did your family and yourself react at the time when you discovered that?
I mean, to be honest with you, during these times, a lot of, even looking back to this day, a lot of it, I describe it as me being numb, because I don't really even remember a lot of it, I'll be honest with you. Obviously, we were upset about it, it was just one of those lingering, upsetting feelings, so, because you didn't know what to expect.
Do you think it's kind of shaped you as a person at all?
I think it's definitely, it was a tragic event, tragic what happened to us, but I think it made me a better person. Ever since it happened, I always have been trying to follow my father's footsteps, even to this day. He's a very positive person. He was known for, having a big smile on his face always. I definitely tried to instill that positivity in my life. Obviously, it's not not simple always, but that's something I try to, live by. He was big on us playing sports and music throughout our childhood, me and my brother. And then he taught me actually how to play the guitar. I think I was about 12 or 13. He had played growing up in some bands. I also carried that on, played in some shows in high school. So I'm glad, he kind of gave me those values, something to do to get my mind off of certain things.
You've wrote a number of songs about your dad. Tell me why,
right.
Why you did that and what it did for you. Did it bring you any closure at all, or?
I wrote a song in 2007 titled Dear Dad, just kind of like in memory of my father. I thought maybe this might be a good way to kind of give him a tribute. The song is just about kind of me filling him in on what's happened since he's left. It was definitely, emotional and moving, but I guess, therapeutic at the same time. I continued to do a tribute song every year thereafter. Kind of like same thing. It was like, I guess you could say I was writing him a letter. each year, right? Kind of filling them in on what I'm doing, what my brother's doing, mom's doing. And I did a song, every year up until 2011 was the last track I did, which I titled Final Farewell, basically saying goodbye, because after about 5 years I did a track. It was kind of, towards that end, it was getting a little difficult, kind of bringing up that memory every time. And I think to this day, that's, the best track I've written. To be honest, I'm very glad I made those songs, because I still go back to this day and listen to each one of them, especially, around this time of the year.
Something you mentioned there, you listen to them every year. Does it get any easier as each year, and anniversary approaches, or does it feel the same way each year? Do you dread the date approaching?
Yeah, obviously, the day isn't, something we look forward to, but it's obviously something we need to do and like to do in his memory, right? For the 11th, want to go, make sure we celebrate his life on that day, and everyone else, obviously, who perished that day. I guess I've accepted it, over the years. It has gotten slightly better. First couple of years, it was definitely, a little bit more difficult to swallow. But, it's been such a long time. I've come such a long way in my adult life now. I was 16, now I'm 36, so I've definitely accomplished a lot. And I know my dad will be proud of me. So, I kind of always try to think of these type of things to keep myself positive.
Obviously, there's lots of documentaries and all sorts of, podcasts and stuff made about it. Do you ever actually watch them? Do you listen to them?
No, I do not actually. It's a little too much for me, to be honest with you. Yeah, I just don't want to, just reliving that moment and seeing what happened would be a little difficult for me personally. I just like to keep the memory of my father, how I knew him, and keep that alive, and, doing music and just keeping that memory in my head each day. So that's kind of how I remember the day.
Of course, yeah. And finally, how will you commemorate 20 years then? Like, what are you planning to do this year?
I go down to the World Trade Center Memorial that they have every year with my mother and brother, and also my wife will be joining us. We've been going pretty much every year, more or less, and we'll continue that this year as well. Yeah, it should be a good day, hopefully, in terms of closing it out for this year.
That was our reporter Baldeep Chahal speaking to Rishi Palmer, who lost his father during the events of 9/11. Now, you may have heard Rishi mention a track he wrote for the 10th anniversary of his father's death. It's called Final Farewell, and we've got the track to play for you.
Every time another year passes, I can't believe, can't believe it happened that day. That morning you taking us to school, plays in my head every day. It's a day that I don't think about it, but I can't keep doing the songs anymore. This is my final farewell, Dad. Listen.
Let me start off another way this year around. No longer scared, I'm proud. No more tears around. I'm not the man you probably always wanted me to be. I'm not really sure what you can see, but believe. No longer ask what's up, why'd you have to leave? I'm past the grief, now I'm just asking, please. Keep looking down, keep this light above my head. You watch me suffer all those damn nights in my bed. I had dreams of you, then I wake up in tears. I thought you were back, as I'm staring in the mirror, pour water on my face. I'm back to reality. The memories I have, cause it ended so tragically. Put me in a shadow that I couldn't escape. I couldn't relate, couldn't even look at my face. I'm now a different person, much stronger than before. So let me say goodbye, cause it's time to close this door. It's been 10 years of hurting and fighting. I wash away the tears and I'm finally just smiling. So now, this is my final farewell. This is my final farewell. Always be a part of me, I'll never forget. You were the best dad and I feel so blessed. So now, this is my final farewell. This is my final farewell. 10 years gone and I can't believe it. On the way to school in the car, remember him speeding. Wish somebody told me that you never will see him, cause I would've made him stop, but I'm only just dreaming. I feel like screaming, Dad, slow down, please. Wait a minute, I don't really want you to leave. This never really happened, then you caught the last train. This car's fast changed, now I feel insane. Never had this pain, how am I supposed to maintain? I'm feeling real lost, somebody help me now. Help me drown, cause I'm no longer healthy now. Had demons in my head, but I kicked them out, ripped them out. I no longer have to shout. Thanks to people that I have in my house. And thanks to people, help me tackle this out. I'm feeling happy, Dad, keep smiling down. It's been 10 years of hurting and fighting. I wash away the tears and I'm finally just smiling. So now, this is my final farewell. This is my final farewell. Always be a part of me, I'll never forget. You were the best dad and I feel so blessed. Now, this is my final farewell. This is my final farewell. After you left, a couple things took a toll. I turned to alcohol, no more basketball. Well, the basketball thing, it wasn't my fault. The doctor screwed up, but I trusted his thoughts. And it hurt me bad when I would look out my window, staring at the hook and that moves as the wind blows. Remember the nights we would always be out out there. Shooting jumpers telling me to keep my feet squared. Now I physically can't, and I mentally won't. When I see a father and son, it makes me feel cold. We ain't never even got to share a beer together. I had my own wish when I was feeling the pressure. I was seeing depression, always bleeding and stressing. Yeah, now I can say I'm healing and resting. No longer feeling troubled, now I'm finally at peace. I gotta say goodbye, but keep on smiling at me. It's been 10 years of hurting and fighting. I washed away the tears and I'm finally just smiling now. This is my final farewell. This is my final farewell. Always be a part of me, I'll never forget. You were the best dad and I feel so blessed now. This is my final farewell. This is my final farewell.
Yeah. It's been the hardest time of my life these past 10 years. But I can't even explain how bad it's been on me. But in a way I'm kind of thankful because it's made me such a strong person today. A much better person. I couldn't have done all this without you, Dad. Thank you for everything you showed me. Thank you for everything you taught me. I will make sure to carry this on. Keep smiling down on us, Dad. I love you so much. Goodbye.
Love that tribute. That's from musician Rishi Palmer, who was rapping about the loss of his father during 9/11. You would have heard that interview as well with Rishi a few moments ago.